Imagine getting a life playbook from one of the world's top financial strategists. Well, that is what I have for you on this chapter of the Rising Star Book Club. Stay tuned. First time early book release, the Resiliency Playbook by Kasthuri Henry.
So we all deal with challenges, and when we go through it, we're not always ready, but when we come out of it and we reflect it, we learn and we grow and we go through that catharsis. Carrie spoke about it very eloquently on how she took her experience and wrote the book. So looking back at life and everything I have been through and everything I'm seeing people go through, because I worked for Aon when 9/11 happened and we lost our entire New York operation in Twin Tower 2. I grew up in the middle of a civil war. When Katrina happened, my offices in New Orleans and Texas got wiped out. So all of these tragedies over and over and over again are teaching us something. And so what I wanted to do is write a book that takes a very strategic approach to solutioning, because as a 30+ year international business strategy and financial consultant, what I do for businesses is build resiliency in a continuously improving way, because there's no such thing as perfection. We are continually evolving, and how do we evolve in a way that we are relevant and we're innovating? And taking all those lessons and those strategy blueprints, but then modifying it to fit to individuals so that we can use it at home, at school, at work. Because as a graduate school professor, I am teaching adults. So I have working adults, directors of corporations, and heads of organizations coming into the classroom. So you're all at the same time in school, at home running a family, and at work running an organization. So we're playing multiple roles. How do I take a strategy that is malleable and modify it and adjust to fit every realm, and evolve in that process so that I create playbooks? My failure to plan is my plan to fail. So how do I have playbooks created so that when situations arise, I can draw from my library of playbooks? Because living in America for 25 years, I have learned that, my husband is watching the sports on TV. Everybody is screaming at the TV. Everybody is a coach, sitting armchair coach, as I say, right? But what if we all had a playbook, and just like when the coach calls a timeout and then draws, combine this play and now go execute that? What if we took that same approach to life and dealing with life's challenges? And so the Resiliency Playbook walks the audience through that process step by step, taking into consideration that life happens and there are so many different aspects of life we need to balance. And which one is a priority for you now? Let's figure out a way to address that as your challenges come about. All these other things are going to be there, but just like eating an elephant, let's address the critical piece today and then layer in the pieces later. So it's not a one-time solution, but it's an ever-evolving journey. And in my Ennoble for Success, I talk about how none of us are defined by a single incident, right? We are each an evolving epic. We embrace it and we live it and take pride in the fact that, hey, I'm starring in my own epic, okay? Accept it and take it on. And so borrowing from some of those lessons and incorporating into this blueprint, the goal is to help people build resiliency so that they don't put themselves in a place of victims. We already have what we need. And so I also draw from my name. Kasthuri literally means a child born with the name Kasthuri, or named Kasthuri, is supposed to learn that everything she knows, she needs in her life is already inside her. All she has to do is draw from within. That is the meaning of my name. So I was very fortunate to come from a culture that has such deep meaning. And so the book is also a way of giving people those tools to remind them, you got this.
So Cass, I have to just, I mean, beyond that, it's timeless, but the piece of, what was this written during, before, and I mean, obviously COVID, right? Talk about having to adapt, and now also, again, re-emerging, right, after COVID and adapting again. That, I mean, it's beyond such a empowering topic. Did COVID, it just, at least in the time frame, when did you start working on this? Because that was news to me, by the way.
I know. I forgot to mention, we talk about a lot of things. I forgot to mention I was writing a book, right?
Yeah.
This book took, oh, yeah, this was written pretty much within the COVID timeframe.
Okay.
So COVID
was the catalyst?
The catalyst was, I met Mark through a mutual friend at the lobby of Berkshire Hathaway when I was finishing up my work for the post-acquisition of Duracell. So I worked on Warren Buffett's Duracell brand acquisition. And as I was working on that acquisition, Mark came by and met me. And as I was talking to him, he's an English teacher in the high school system. So here is a career educator who's worked with children and empowered and coached them through their life challenges. And as I'm listening to his story, the educator in me and the strategist in me is always trying to figure out, okay, how do I leverage this to help our mutual transformation? Because I always come from a place of every human interaction is an opportunity. They're going to teach me something and they're going to transform me. So every conversation, as I'm listening, I am processing, what is the transformational opportunity here? So as I finished talking to Mark and we said our goodbyes, the next day I called him up and said, do you want to write a book? And he's like, yeah. He's probably thinking, what are you talking about, lady? And I have been teaching US military, public safety, though, so that's fire, police, homeland security, for the last 21 years. I have military clearance. I teach them data analytics, fiscal aspects, and leadership. How do you use data to make the right decisions, to be fiscally responsible with taxpayer money and lead with governance in a way that you are building public trust for the public good? So as I'm doing that, I'm also seeing the trauma and the challenges that entire population faces. We see in the media all the bad stuff about bad actors do, but we never hear about all the challenges these populations face. And the suicide rate is the highest in this population. And because these are all majority men, all the people in leadership are men. So I'm in a class of 35 to 40 men. They're all older than me. I started teaching at 31. They were all 45. So as I'm dealing with this, I'm also the only female professor in their program, and they find it very comfortable talking to me. So I get a lot of people pouring their hearts out, bringing their children and families to talk to me. So this is 21 years of coaching and counseling, off the books, off the record, right? Because this is from a humanity perspective, you do. And I've always wanted to do something to help this population. And here I saw somebody who could partner with me. And I was also thinking, well, living in a world where it's so polarized, race, religion, gender, ethnicity, color, everything is polarizing. And here is a gentleman older than me who was Jewish from New York. What if we collaborated? I don't know him yet. I can get to know him. And I always look at the world from a very simple lens. What's the worst that could happen? I could be dead. If I'm dead, it's somebody's problem, right? If I'm alive, I'll figure this out. So it was a very tongue-in-cheek way I learned to deal with life as a child. So to me, nothing is really bad, right? I'm alive, I can figure this out. So let's jump into writing a book. And so that was the impetus. I can do what I've always wanted to do, but do it in a way that show the world people from different walks of life, different everything, can still find a middle ground without knowing each other previously, write a book, bring it forward, and transform lives. And it's possible if we are connected based on that single point of purpose.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Power of the Tribe Network and Rising Star Book Club. This afternoon, I have Jennifer Stowell here with the author of Driven to Serve, Respect from Those Called to Serve in Public Service in Uncertain Times. So Jennifer, welcome to the show, and it's good to see you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you for having me.
Okay, so first of all, I know that the book, a big piece of the book.
That was actually the name we used temporarily until I was able to get.
Dr. Kasthuri Henry, who has recently moved to Belize, and we'll talk about that. She was the youngest CFO, US CFO. She, I don't know, just hung out with Warren Buffett and hung out in those circles. And her book, to the most amazing surprise, is not about all that. And that would have been enough. Her book, Noble for Success, Civil War to US CFO, is about her journey from a little girl in Sri Lanka's civil war and the family and the tight-knit community and what that was, to then going to India, saying that she was just not going to get an arranged marriage, to continue moving forward to, yes, and standing in her brilliance and never allowing others to decide who and what she gets to be. And within that, she stands for others. Cass, can you lean into a little bit of who and what you do? There you go.
Thank you so much, Maureen, and such an honor and pleasure to be with such amazing authors. Noble for Success and my story is about, if we open our hearts and embrace life as it unfolds, we can be very pleasantly surprised about where we get our transformational lessons and how unlikely people are going to ennoble us, so that we get to stand in our truth and we get to shine. And it was important for me to speak about it in my book from that perspective, because a lot of times people think that, Cass, based on the work you have done, you probably learned a lot from Warren Buffett. And I don't know if you all know Aon Corporation. It's the largest insurance and reinsurance brokerage firm, got built by one man from a single insurance brokerage firm out of an auto dealership. So I've worked for very huge business leaders as their CFOs, but all my lessons have come from people that we would normally consider invisible, right? So don't prejudge people and circumstances on who we are going to learn from. Just embrace life as it happens, because you'd be surprised at who is going to transform you.
Well, give us a little lean into, and by the way, your book is so much fun. So it's fun, it's inspiring, and it's another well-written, really page turner. So just that people were, when they get the book, give us a little bit about your background in Sri Lanka, the Civil War, and where you got to go.
Okay, I'll be happy to. So we were a Portuguese, Dutch, and an English colony over 400 years. My people are the natives of South Asia. We're Dravidian as a race. We speak Tamil, the native language of the Dravidians, like Latin is to Europeans. We're Hindus by faith. But just like the rest of the world, immigration and migratory patterns, and the country was a three-nation island when Europeans colonized it, and they left it as a single nation when they left. So just like any society, the affluent, educated reproduce less. And the uneducated and the ones who do physical labor-related activities have larger families, right? Because they're exposed to so much more in the world, right? They have to work hard, they need bigger families to support their lifestyle, so on and so forth. So when we got independence, we became a nation where the natives became minority. And so we became a persecuted minority of a massive government genocide. And the country, upon independence, made compulsory mother tongue education, and each race their native education in their language, and they abolished English. So it was a government engineered by design segregation in schools, in society, in economy. But the affluent community continued to thrive, and they decided, okay, we can't shut them down, so we have to kill them. So I grew up as a child going to school. So I had to cut my hair, do everything that allowed me not to show who I am and what my race is. And I had to learn to speak all 3 languages I spoke as if it was my native tongue. If you listen to me speak English, you can never tell it's my 3rd language. I learned to elocute so that my English didn't have my underlying Tamil accent. And I spoke the Sinhalese language, which is the language of the majority, and then obviously my language. So there are different scripts, different languages, different cadence. And so learning to survive and live through that has taught me a lot. And it has also taught me in a way that who I am is far more important than what I do. And coming from that childhood preteen lesson has allowed me to, in a way, not take myself so too seriously based on what I do, because what I do is what I do. But who I am is what's going to stay with me. And learning from multiple languages enriches the journey, right? I am blessed to have a language that is over 7,000 years old. I have literature and philosophy and science that predates any of the spoken and written Western languages. So I feel very enriched, and it informs me that the knowledge and the experience and the transformation I go through is the journey of my soul. And the journey of my soul continues even when that soul leaves the body. And what I do is a function of the body, but who I am is a classic epitomization of what my soul is. And so to me, this whole thing and this experience, and yes, it was a war, yes, it was a genocide, yes, I lost my childhood, yes, I had to raise my siblings on my own in a foreign country. I did not come to America until I was a working adult in my late 20s. But I took my siblings and went to India, raised them. So I've been teaching and working and running a household and making financial decisions since I was 16. But what it has taught me is all of those are things I do. But ultimately who I am is what I embody as a soul. And that is all that matters at the end of the day. And when I hear Carrie speak, when I hear Cheryl speak, that's what I see. I see the journeys they have taken and the souls that have been transformed and how willingly they're giving from that soul.